Shalom. Welcome to 6 by 6. 6 days a week, 6 minutes a day, and you get a full idea from the Lubavitcher Rebbe, from Elucidating Sichos. And today we're going to be talking about the 3 weeks. Now, from the 17th day of the Hebrew month of Tammuz until the 9th day of Av, there's exactly 3 weeks. What happened in these 3 weeks? Well, a few thousand years ago, the Romans breached the walls of Jerusalem on the 17th day of Tammuz, and that, so to speak, was pretty much the end of it, because even though there was tremendous fighting, you can just only imagine that the Jewish people were holding up their backs against the wall or literally against the temple, and they were fighting viciously for 3 entire weeks. But finally the Roman Empire, which obviously was strong as we know and conquered the world, that they actually beat up the Jewish people while they were defending the temple. And by the 9th day of Av, 3 weeks later, they actually went into the temple, looted it. First of all, there was a lot of gold artifacts there, of course, and then they burnt it down. And until today, which is 2,000 years later, literally, that we're still mourning over it. And so since we are mourning, it is a tragedy for us. I mean, we may have a good life in our exile in the United States or wherever around the world. On the other hand, we still do not have the temple. We are waiting for the Mashiach, the Messiah, to rebuild the temple. It's been 2,000 years, enough already, but in any case, we're still here. And therefore, that's what we're mourning about. We'd like the Mashiach to be here. There'll be peace, prosperity for the entire world, for the Jewish people also, and then we will have the temple, and we'll be able to see the glory of the Torah and the mitzvahs the way they really should be performed in the temple in Jerusalem. Now, that we just, again, more basic Judaism, that in every Shabbos, every Saturday, we read the Torah portion, and long ago, and again, you're talking a few thousand years ago, the non-Jews realized, sometimes better than the Jewish people, that, of course, that the Torah is the Jewish people's strength in our life. So he says, well, we're going to cut off the Jewish people. The main thing is to cut out the Torah and the mitzvahs. Many times they killed the Jews altogether, but in many times they just said it's forbidden to learn Torah or do the mitzvahs. And that was a tragedy for the Jewish people. What were they supposed to do? You have to read the Torah with 10 people in a synagogue, a gathering. You can't just do it privately in your basement. And the Romans had their KGB, whatever you want to call them, their Gestapo people looking out at the Jewish people. And therefore that they arrested many Jewish people, and Jewish people had to stop reading the Torah. Well, what are they going to do? Well, one of the ideas was to read a portion of the prophets, which wasn't forbidden, and that they would be similar to the Torah reading. You thought we had a portion of the spies going into Israel by Moses, so that's forbidden to read. So they'll read about the spies, for example, Joshua sending in spies 40 years later after when Moses did send the spies, and spies here, spies there, so at least you got the gist. Well, you know, the decrees don't last forever, thank God. And then again, as we have today, obviously for a few thousand years, we read the Torah portion, but once it was instituted, the Haftarah, the prophets, the portion of the prophets, then they kept it, and that's why we read the Haftarah today. So usually the Haftarah is, like I just said, similar to the Torah idea. On the other hand, that these 3 weeks, getting back to our point, that we don't read similar to the Torah reading, we read about troubles. Well, there's so many prophets that talked about, the Jewish people, you're not doing the right thing, and there's going to be trouble, which of course there was, destruction of the temple, and Jewish people sent in the diaspora. And these prophets prophesied beforehand, before it really happened. So we read those 3 Haftarahs in these 3 weeks, 3 Shabbosim, the 3 Shabbos between the 17th day of Tammuz and 9th day of Av. Well, that's all basic Judaism. But the Rebbe, of course, takes everything on a deeper and profound level. And therefore, he just says, still, there must be a connection ultimately between the Haftarah and the portion even though, like I just gave over the basic Judaism, there isn't, but he looks deeper and everything is divine providence, and there must be a deeper connection between that and so the next time when we get together, we will see that connection as the Rebbe looks into it between the Torah portion and the Haftarahs of the 3 weeks.